the big story from Barcelona continues to be the attitude of Dembele. Sid, we saw Luis Suarez speaking out just a couple of days ago saying, look, it's a privilege to be a footballer. He needs to realise that. Is he going to feature in this game? And do you think he can get over all of this criticism coming from his own teammates?
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, Dan. I think one of the things that's been so interesting over the last 10 days is that these have been public statements made by people around him. And I think that tells you that they must have reached a point where patience had worn thin, where they believe that either, right, I've had enough of this and I've got to say something, or whether there was actually a concerted decision, if you like, to say, look, one of the things we need to do now is to come out and say these things publicly to try and effectively kind of force him back into line. And I think there's an awareness at Barcelona that they have an incredibly talented player. This is a player who scored on 4 different occasions this season really key goals in winning games, and obviously starting, of course, with the Super Cup against Sevilla. He's been really, really important when they haven't played well. He's been far less important when they have played well, which is why I think this weekend he will feature, but probably off the bench. That would be my guess. And it's not just about him, it's partly systemic. You look at how much better Barcelona have played when they've reinforced the midfield rather than had 3 up front, and I think that already advises you to leave him out, at least maybe to leave him out of the starting 11, but to then draw on him late in the game. I think they want to get him back in. I think they want to try and, if you like, kind of channel him in the right direction. I think PK was right when he said, look, we've all done daft things when we were kids. I don't think anyone thinks that he's a particularly bad person. I don't think anyone thinks that he's massively off the rails. I think they just feel that he needs to kind of be focused a bit and to be guided a little bit, which I guess is natural that from someone who comes from such a different environment, such a different type of club, and comes to Barcelona at such a young age as well.
We'll learn a lot about him, won't we, and how he reacts to
Yeah, and also, but if you're going to a big club, doesn't matter how young you are, if you're not turning up for training at the right time and you're not turning up for training on certain days and you're not towing the line, that's a massive problem. It's not just the club's responsibility, it's his responsibility. You must know, as if you're going to a top club, if you're playing any professional football, you've got to be a top-class player and you've got to behave in the right manner. And it's up to you and the people around you, not just the people at the club, the agent, his friends, they've got to get him into line.
I think what you see here is exactly how easy it is to fall off the rails when you do find yourself at a big club like Barcelona at a very young age. We spoke extensively about Sir Alex Ferguson and the class of '92 and how strict he was with them, and you see the results. At the same time, since that, you've seen any number of occasions where players have moved money, been heavily loaded as teenagers, moved to big clubs, and then kind of fell off the rails. And you're absolutely right. It's about who they have around them. Yeah. And if the club doesn't take an active role in controlling who's around these young players, these are the incidents you end up with.
You know the strangest thing about this is normally when you've got a player who's stepping out of line, who's missing training, who's being late, usually that transfers onto the field and they're just, it takes them to get to rock bottom where they're being outed in public by the players in the club. Yeah. This guy's doing it, this guy's the opposite. Because this guy on the field, as Sid just told you, on 4 different occasions, he scored important goals and he's actually contributing. That is not usual.
But eventually his standards will drop and drop and drop if you're not behaving yourself, if you're doing the wrong things off the field, if you're not turning up for training, if you're not training hard enough. Eventually that will take its toll.